Chapter 3, Lesson 5, talking about fractions being the same amount as decimals, being able to comfortably move between fractions and decimals back and forth. All right, so think about that. You got the fraction bar or slash. That indicates division. So it's numerator divided by denominator. So in this case, 8 halves would be 8 divided by 2, and which is 4. So the fraction 8 halves, the improper fraction 8 halves, would be the same amount as 4. All right, how about 3 30-seconds then? So we'll be able to take a numerator, 3, divide by the denominator, 32. When we press the equals, then we're going to get an amount. Okay? So you can see 3 divided by 32 gives us this decimal. And this decimal, 9,375 hundred-thousandths, is the same amount as the fraction 3 30-seconds. 1 is written as a decimal. 1 is written as a fraction. All right. Taking these now and taking 13 33rds. I'm going to go on my calculator. 13 divided by 33. Press the equals button on the calculator. So you can go ahead and do that too right now. Just go 13 divided by 33. When you press the equals button, hopefully you see this. But it's not just that, it's that repeating over and over again. So I'm going to put a straight line over both the 3 and the 9, showing that they both continue to repeat. All right. Next, 1 and. Okay, so you can see I've got this whole number part. All right. So we're going to have that same thing when we come to a decimal. And then we're going to have this fraction part also. And you're going to see that fraction part show up over here as a decimal. All right, so let's do it. We have one whole thing, and, okay, and that's that decimal point, and then I could just go 3 divided by 14. So my calculator, when I go 3 divided by 14, press the equals button, I get a pretty long decimal here. Okay, 2, 1, 4, 2857. Okay. So this amount right here is the decimal part that I'm going to want behind the 1 up here. So I'm going to go 2, 1, 4, 2, 8, 7. Okay. So it's still the same amount. It's now not a mixed number anymore. Now it's a decimal, written as a decimal. All right. So now you can see that we have, again, just similar in that we have a whole number part. Okay. So when I write this, I'm going to have a whole number part that'll have a 6. And then I'll take this part that's written as a decimal here, and I'll write it as a fraction right here. Okay, so this is in the thousandths place. There's 3 decimal places. Okay, 1 would be the tenths, 2 would be hundredths, 3 would be thousandths, and you can see that we have 25 thousandths. And we would be done if it didn't say have it in lowest terms. Okay, so now I'm just going to divide by something numerator and denominator that goes into both of these. I think 25 goes into both of them. Always think about that 25 being 25 cents going into $1. Obviously 25 goes into 25 one time. Okay, if I had 100 divided by 25, that would have an answer of 4. I don't have 100, I have 1,000. And so I'm going to have one more 0 back here. All right, so this is equal to 6 whole things and 1/40th in lowest terms, or simplest form if you want to think about it that way. All right, this is a list of fractions and their decimal equivalents, and these are some that they would like us to recognize all of these. So for instance, I think this one we already recognize. We see 25 hundredths or 25 cents, and we know that's a quarter. We see 75 hundredths or 75 cents, and we know that's 3/4. We see a half as 5/10, we recognize those. And so these are just some other ones that they would like us to recognize. Many times we do these and we say these out loud, 1/10, and that helps us write 1/10. We say this out loud, 3/10, and that helps us write 3/10. Okay, so this is when we are in class, I'm asking you to say it without the word point. And if we say these without the word point, I think they really help us. So this is just a list of them that they would like us to recognize when we see these things pop up in our calculators. All right, so now we can do the same thing here. I'm going to take 28 hundredths, I'm going to divide by 3 and 6/10, and press the equals button on the calculator. So you can do the same thing right now. 28 hundredths divided by 3 and 6/10, press the equals button, and I get 0.07, and that 7 goes on and on. Okay, so this is going to be pretty close to where I was going to round it. For instance, I'd say 0.8, which would be 8 out of 100. 8 hundredths, because we have 2 decimal places. Okay, so 8 out of 100. Not exactly, but quite close to 8 out of 100. Okay. All right. So that would be all the things that we talked about in here. You know, if we wanted to, we could go one more. I could divide by 4 and divide by 4. If I take 28 hundredths and divide by 4, that gives me 7 hundredths. I take 3 and 6/10 and divide by 4. That gives me 9/10. Okay, this isn't a bad way to go. And then if I would like these not to be decimals anymore, I could multiply by 100. When we multiply by 100, our digits stay the same. We just move the decimal point 2 places. So when I multiply by 100, it moves it 2 places. So this would be a 7 now. And then same thing here. I'm going to multiply by 100 down here, and it's going to move it 2 places. Okay, and that's going to be 7 out of 90. So, you know, this is quite close to 8 out of 100, but it's exactly 7/90. That gives us our exact answer for this fraction. All right, so I hope that helps. Thanks for watching the lesson. As you're doing your homework, keep track of any questions that you have, and I can help you with those either in class or in study hall, before school, after school, anything like that. All right, have a good rest of your day.